Hello everyone and welcome to this another episode of 3D prototyping in Unity. My name is Kasamas. In the last episode we took care of our GUI. What we basically did is built a GUI that was going to allow us to both track our health and our ammo consumption. All we're doing right now is taking it away. We're never putting it back. In today's episode, what I'd like to do is build a pickup, a loot drop, a power-up, whatever you want to call it. Something like that that's going to allow us to affect our situation, either by gaining health or gaining ammo. I think today we're going to take a look at gaining health. Alright everyone, let's get started. Okay guys, so we're going to start off really simply here by creating ourselves a health pickup. And then once again, the same technique that we're using for this health pickup could be used for loot. It could be used like a loot drop that your enemies make. It could be used to make power-ups, anything like that, alright? We're going to definitely go in here and we're going to create... oops, I spun that around. I want to be like this. We're going to create a simple health pickup. So it's basically, when you take damage, you pick up this health pickup, and once again, bam, your health goes back up. To do so, I'm going to go in and I'm going to make, let me see, I'm going to go into models here, into accessories, and I'm going to look for this pixel heart. I'm just going to drag it, and drop it on the screen. And then I'm going to zero it out. Reset. So it's all at 0 right now. It's really massive. I don't like how big it is. So what I'm going to do, first of all, I'm going to rename it. So this is going to be our health pickup. Let's just call it that, health pickup. And I'm going to move it over a little bit so we can see it a little bit better. Let's just put it over here. I'm also going to use this little tiny box, and I'm going to add in a little purple foundation to it. And that's going to really show me where the bottom of this thing is, how I place it in the scene. And I'm going to go on here to our one level below, to our pixel heart. If we take a look, our health pickup has nothing in it. It's just a transform. It's just a top envelope for the entire thing. And our pixel heart is actually the mesh, etc., etc. And I'm going to do all my work on this object rather than on the pixel heart. I'm going to use the pixel heart to place my object in the scene, and then after that, everything else is going to be on this pixel heart. So first of all, it's far too big. Let's try decimal 0.8. Let's try that. I don't know. Decimal 0.8 and decimal 0.8. Decimal 0.8. That is more appropriate, actually. I like that size a little bit better. It looks like it's more in line with our character. I'm going to move it up a little bit. Let's move it up to, let's say 1.25. Yeah, that's definitely more appropriate as far as our size is concerned. It's about the same size as our character, and it's going to be very noticeable by any player who's playing this game. So that's not a bad size right there. Now, we already know, we've already done some work with this before, with this kind of thing before, and we know that we require a collider. If we want our player to be able to pick this up or interact with it in any way, we know that we require a collider. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is immediately add a component, and I'm going to add a collider, a physics collider. You can choose what you want. This is a flat object, and it's going to be in line with my character, so I'm not going to really worry about like having to have a sphere or anything like that. I'll just do a box collider, and that generally takes the shape of my actual object. So that's perfect. That's perfect. What I'm going to do, first thing I'm going to do is make sure this is a trigger. Now, if it wasn't a trigger, then our character would bang into it and wouldn't be able to cross it in any way. We want our character to be able to pick this object up. By making it a trigger, we have 3 opportunities to be able to issue code. When the character first touches it, upon entering the collider, on exiting the collider, we can trigger code, and whenever we stay within the collider, we can trigger code. We're going to use one of those things to affect our character's health in a little bit. We'll take a look at the actual code involved. For now, let's keep taking a look at this asset. So right now, if I hit play, we've got ourselves this static object that's just kind of floating in space. And yes, it doesn't really look like it belongs there, and that's perfectly fine. But what I want to do is I want to add a little something else that's going to attract our player's eye to this object. Either some kind of motion, some kind of glow, some kind of particle effect. You guys can decide what you're going to do. For this, what I'd like to demonstrate is we're going to take a first look at the animation available within Unity itself. Up until this point, we've been animating in a third-party tool like Maya, and we've been importing that object as an FBX with the animation on it. What I want to take a look at is just a very brief look at the animation states and what have you that's available through Unity internally just to this system. So that's what we're going to do right now. And that's how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to keep this thing very, very understated, very, very simplistic. If you guys want to follow along, that's great. Window, make sure you've got yourself your animation tab, and I have mine right here currently. Make sure you've got yourself an animation tab available. If not, it's right here. All right. So if we actually take a look at this object right now, we've got ourselves our transform node, our mesh filter, our actual mesh renderer, and our box collider, and then the shader. If we take a look, if we really want to add, if we want this thing to move, we're going to have to do the same thing we did with our character. We're going to need an animator and an animation controller. With this object selected, if I take a look right over here in the animation tab, it says to begin animating pixel heart, create an animator and an animation clip. Now I can do that manually if I want to, or I can simply say create, and bam, it's going to bring up this new window. And you know what, I actually wish this was an animation. I'm in the wrong spot. Let's call this health pick up idle. All right, and it's just going to be what we play normally. So if I'm going to try and find it here, health pickup idle, it created this object, this animation. This is currently red. Just push the little button for now. It's created this little animation. This is an animation right here. I'm going to drag it. I'm going to drop it into my animation folder. And I'm also going to look for the pixel heart right here. This is our animation controller. I'm going to drag that and drop it in animation as well, just so we have everything kind of together. If we take a look at pixel heart now, and let's give it another name. Well, you know what, leave it as that, whatever. Pixel heart's fine. If we take a look at it now, we've got ourselves what we had before. So there's our filter, our mesh renderer, our box collider, and now we've got an animator and an animation controller listed in that animator. All right, so this object is ready to accept animation. In fact, we've already got one animation built on it right here. If I look at the animator itself, we have an animation state machine already created with our health pickup idle as our default state. So that's awesome. That's what we want. Nothing else needs to be done. All we have to do now is add some kind of animation to this object. And adding animation is very, very simplistic. Here in the animation tab, we can simply say add property. We can choose what we want it to do. And in my case, I think all I'm going to have it do is I'm going to have it move up and down. That's it. It's going to move up and down, and that's all it's going to do. And that way, it's just going to be moving slightly, and it's going to draw the attention of our player. All right, that's all I want it to do. So I'm going to add in here. It's going to say add property, and I'm going to choose for now. I'm going to choose position, and I'm going to add property, and I'm going to say transform again, and I'm going to say rotation. I'm going to add both of those in there, so I can have some rotation and I can have some translation if I want. All right, it's going to be up to me. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do yet. By default, it has an animation listed here that goes from, the animation timeline goes from 0 to 1 second, and I've got myself keyframes on 0 and 1 second. Now this is not long enough for me. I think I'm going to add this. I'm going to make my animation idle. I'm going to make it about 4 seconds. So I'm just going to drag this along. 4 seconds should be something that doesn't go too fast. I don't want anything that's like, vibrating very heavily or anything like that. I just want it to be moving up and down slowly. So let's say I think this is my topmost position. All I want to happen, let's say at 2 seconds. At 2 seconds, let's say what I want to happen is I want this thing to have moved up and down. So at 2 seconds, as soon as I click in here, you can see this thing turned red, and that means I'm in record mode. So anything that I do right now will be recorded as animation. And let's say all I want to happen is for this object to move down slightly. Let's say that's all I want it to do. All right, you can see it automatically created a brand new keyframe for me right here. Now, if I stop this, bam, and I say play, let's see what happens. My heart will automatically be animating. And you know what? That might be enough to have our character say, whoa, I see something happening over there. I'm going to go over there. You can see how it hits the top, and it's a little bit rough. I don't really like that. Right here, we're working within the dope sheet. And instead of the dope sheet, so that allows me to set my actual keyframes. Let's say I go into curves instead, and I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to say free smooth. And I'm just going to, let me see, what are my other options I have? Free smooth, flat. I'm just going to make it flat. And this one here I'm going to make flat. And that's going to allow me to have a nice slow in and a slow out of my animation here. All right, so that should, instead of that harsh poke that I've got, it should be a nice smooth up and down curve now. All right, and that looks good. I like the way that looks. I'm going to leave it just like that. And that's going to be enough. I'm not going to add any rotation in. You guys can add some rotation if you want to, something, maybe make the heart wiggle or whatever you want. However you want to do it. And that's just going to, all I've done there is I've done it to draw the player's attention. Something's moving on the screen. Hopefully they're going to see it and realize it's something that they want. It's going to be up to you guys, though, to decide what you want to do. It could be, a change in texture. It could be, it lightens or it darkens. It could be a flash. It could be particle effects. Whatever you want to draw the player's attention. In this simplistic, understated game, I'm just going to go with an up and down movement, and that's perfectly fine. So this object is now almost ready to be able to be used as a pickup. All right. Right now, it's got the motion. It's got everything in place. What I want to do is I'm going to go in here. Let's go back to our game here. Let's shrink this down a bit. I don't need that animation window anymore, so let me see, get in here. I hate trying to find where this thing is. Where's my, right there. All right, so I'm going to leave it like that for now. What I'm going to add in here, I'm going to add a script. I need some kind of script that's going to be able to control how this thing behaves. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply go down here and say add component. I'm going to add a new script. I'm going to call it health pick up controller. All right, and that's exactly what it does. It controls my health pickup, and I'm going to double click on it so we open it up in Mono Develop. Okay, great, and I've got that error. Let's just dupe, and let's just do this and close this one. All right, we've got our health controller here, and there's not a lot that we really need to do. With our health pickup, first thing we're going to want to do, we're going to want to add a public float, or it can be an int, it doesn't really matter, or a double. A public float value that's going to say, I'm going to call it health. All right, and health is going to be the amount of health that, well, let's call it health amount. Let's give it a better name, health amount. And health amount is the amount of health that's available to the player whenever the player picks this object up. We don't really need to do anything else in here. All right, that's going to be perfectly fine for now. I'm going to come down here, hit a couple of returns, and I'm going to add my void on trigger enter. So basically what I want to happen is when my player walks into this collider, it's going to run this code. So on trigger enter, I require one collider as my input, and I'll just call it other, and I'll put in my braces immediately. Now, really all we really want to do here is check a couple of things. If this is our player, and how do we check if this is our player? Well, we already set up our player. If we go back here and take a look, if we go back here and we take a look at our player soldier, we already tagged our soldier as the player. So we had that tag set up. Let's go in here then and look for that tag. So if other dot tag equals quotations player, then we know it's our player and we can actually do something here. So add in my braces again and write my code. So if it's our player, and only if it's our player, we want to do something. Now, we already know that our player has a health script on him. Let's open up our player health script actually. Let's go over here for a second and go back to our soldier, find our player health, player health script, double click, and boom. All right, so we already have a player health in here. Now, right now our player health doesn't allow us to actually add health, but it does allow us to add damage. If we take a similar concept to this add damage, so the same thing we did with our bad guy, we said, okay, we'll make a public function that's a void because we're not returning anything, and let's call it add health. And it's going to take a float or int or whatever you decide. It probably should be one of those depending on what you're using, and we'll call it health. All right, and I'm going to add in my braces. Now, this public function, later on when we get to it, this public function is going to allow us to actually add health. So basically, oh, I don't want to go here. I want to go here. So basically what we want to do is in this location, we want to look for that health script. So our other dot get component. So we're looking, we already know it's our player, so we're going to look for the component. And what are we going to look for? We're going to look for our player health script. If we can find our player health script, you should probably do some error checking in here. I'm not going to bother. If you can find your player health script, then you can actually access all the additional public functions. So I'm going to access the add health, which takes a single parameter, and it's the health amount. All right, health amount. So basically, we are going to call the player health script, and we're going to use its public function to add health to our character. The last thing we want to do is make sure that the player can't use this more than once. So we're immediately going to destroy we're going to destroy this object. And we're not just going to destroy this object locally because we're writing this code on one layer below the surface level, below the parent. So we're going to destroy what? We're going to destroy our transform. So we're going to go, form. Did I spell it wrong? Yes, I did. Transform. We're going to destroy our transform dot, and we're going to look at the root of the transform itself. So it's going to go to the root. We're going to look at the dot game object at that point, and we're going to destroy that. All right. So we're going to destroy transform dot root dot game object. We're going to save this. File save. And with that done, all we need to do now is write our code on for the add health. And that's really, really easy to do. All right, let's go on over here to our player health. In player health, we've already set it up. We've got our add health in here. What do we want to happen then? Well, all we really want to happen is we want our current health to go up. So our current health is going to be equal to, or it should be equal to, plus equals the health. All right, and that's the amount of health that we're adding. All right. We're going to have a check here because we don't want our player to go over their maximum health. So if current health is greater than max health, and maybe it's different. Maybe you want them to. What did I call it? Full health, excuse me, not max health. Full health. So if our current health is greater than our full health, then what we want to happen is our current health to be equal to our full health. And maybe you want to overdrive. Maybe you want to overdrive your health. For your game, if that's what you want to do, that's perfectly fine. If you're going to do that, it's going to require more coding. You're going to have to go through and make sure you're tracking what the full health was and how long you keep it for and all that kind of stuff. But for now, all I'm going to do is check and see if we've got more health than we're supposed to. Then we're going to reset our health back to our full health. So we're maximizing our health at full health. Last thing we want to do is obviously set our health slider. What did we call it? We called it player health slider dot value. Our value is going to be equal to our current health. All right, and that's all we need to do. With that done, we can now access this function as often as we want. I'm going to file save it. File save. I did file save this one already, right? I did. All right, with that done, that's all we need to do. All right, let me put this back up so you guys can see it. Player health. Really and truly, very, very easy stuff. That's all we needed to do. Now, I'm going to go back here. I'm going to go to my game, and I'm going to hit play. So I have errors. Can't convert string to a bool 19 in player health pickup. Let's go take a look here. What did I probably have a single equal sign. If, right here. I do. If other tag equals quotation player. Sorry about that, guys. So that is a comparison. The double equals is a comparison, whereas the single equals is an equate. All right, you can't equate within an if statement. Sorry about that. All right, let's save that again. File, save. Let's go back here and take a look. Make sure that everything cleans up. Ooh, it's nice and clean. Now I'm going to hit play. Oh, we have to do one thing first. Let's go over here to before I hit play, let's go to our health pickup, to our pixel heart, and let's make sure that the health amount that we add is some amount. Let's add 10. All right, you can decide how much it adds. My character has a health of 30, and I know that the tank trap over there does 10 damage, so I'm going to step on the tank trap, and then I'm going to go over and get my heart and make sure that I go up in value. All right, so with that done, I'm going to say play. Everything's there. There's my heart wiggling. Awesome. Bam, I took damage. You can see that I've gone down now, 10. And when I run over here, boop, I have grabbed the 10 and I've gone back up. My current health is back to normal. All right, and that's as easy as a health pickup is to make. All right, guys, that's it. I think we're going to call that the end of this episode. It wasn't a whole really long time, but it's really easy to do. I suggest you make something fancy, maybe when you pick this up, or whatever. We're going to look at sound later on, so maybe we'll add some sound to this a little bit later on. I recommend you try right now making yourself some additional. Let's drag this. Sorry. Make some additional pickups. Maybe you want to make an ammo pickup. It's going to be done exactly the same way. Create yourself your little asset right there with a collider on it. Make sure it's a trigger collider, and then make the public functions that are going to allow you to manipulate whatever item you're trying to manipulate, whatever variable you're trying to manipulate. You could make yourself a jump for example, so you could jump higher, just add more power to your jump. Things like that. You guys could add that very, very simply now. All right, it's really, really easy to do. Maybe if there's time later on, I'll take a look at adding an ammo pickup, because I'm really going to need one of those a little bit later on. I'm going to add it offline, and if I have time, maybe I'll do another episode really, really quickly of exactly the same thing, but just using ammo. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode. I hope it did what you wanted it to do, and now you are all set and you are moving forward in your pickups. Last thing you should do, go to your prefabs and make sure you drag your health pickup and drop it in your prefabs, and that way it's always available for you to use. Oh, and I probably want to zero this out, so when I use it later on, 0. So when I use it later on, everything's where it's supposed to be. Anyway, guys, that's it. Hope you enjoyed it. Go on, make yourself some additional stuff. Make a jump, make a ammo, whatever you want. It's really easy to do. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Thumbs up, thumbs down, comments down below. And if you haven't done so, please take a few seconds to subscribe. Have yourselves a wonderful day, everyone.